Hey friends, my name is Jake. This is Bandit. And he just was saying he had to sit on my lap again. Today we're taking a look at this knife. This is the Native Hunter by CONDOR Knife and Tool. 440 stainless steel, 440C stainless steel. I don't like 440 that much. 440C I'm quite fond of. Of course, full tang, made in El Salvador, which is CONDOR's main operations center. We've got walnut for the handle. It's got some nice red liners there. Whoop! Almost tried to drop it. Let's see if it'll focus on those liners. No, it's too small that way. I'll show it to you on the close-up when we get to the tabletop. It's got a little lanyard on the tail there. We've got a dark brown leather sheath. And I've written to them to ask them if this is full grain or top grain leather. Or at least full grain if it's not top grain, or not, because I'm very curious. All they say on there is that it's welted leather. I guess the welting is the seam along there as well. That doesn't really tell us anything about the quality of the leather. It just says something about how it's put together. So hopefully they respond in time. But we're going to take, it's Fixed Blade Friday for me. I'm recording this on Friday the 28th. I hope I have this video ready by the 29th. But I have to do some of the video with it as is, and then I need to sharpen it and show you the rest of the video. And that's because I really, really dislike the way they sharpened it from the factory, and I want to see if my way of sharpening it is going to make it better performing or not. So let's get to the tabletop and get started. Keep watching. First off, let's take a look at this leather sheath. We've got the CONDOR logo embossed on there. It's got single stitching down here, a rivet on either end. There's the welting, and we've got a fold over belt loop. Quite standard for this kind of leather loop belt. I mean, you could add a D-ring on here and create a dangle if you wanted to. So I prefer dangle, but this isn't terrible because it doesn't sit terribly high in the waist, but higher than I prefer. You can see they put in a little piece. Maybe you can't. Well, there you go. The light's a little bit there. There's a little piece of leather patch that they put over top on the inside on the rivet, which I quite like. That's a little bit attention to detail so that it won't scrape up the side of your knife when you put it in and out with the steel of the rivet sticking out, because it's not sticking out. I'm not sure how long that's going to last there or not, but I can see that they've even done it on the bottom rivet right here. So I'm sure that they assembled the loop before they sewed it together, since they know exactly where the loop's going to go anyways. And right here it says El Salvador. I still haven't used this knife long enough that the sheath is super broken in. It squeezes quite a bit right there. It's not coming loose at all. There's no looseness there at all, but with use that's going to get a little bit looser. So the sheath, it's got a pass for now. A passing grade. Not a pass as in I want it to go away. Here's the knife. I like this design. It says this is a internal CONDOR internal knife design, and I think they did a pretty good job on the basic design. We've got sort of a straight back knife, but it's on a bit of a canted angle from the handle, and it's pretty good shape for its size, its shape, the thickness of the blade here. It's a little over 1/8 of an inch thick. And we've got a nice saber grind here, a flat grind that comes up. I don't mind a flat grind. This is a strong, tough knife. You've got the full thickness of the blade, as you can see along the flat right up to there. And then it comes down to the tip. And 440C is a very good budget steel, in my opinion. You know, it was made way back around the time of the Second World War, I think a little bit before that, but it's a very good steel. The carbon in here is around 1%, often a little bit over 1%, and the chromium in here is usually around 17%, give or take a tiny bit, which means it's a tough, durable steel that also is very corrosion resistant, and it doesn't cost an awful lot. We've got a little bit of big jimping right here, and that's for the thumb in there. I wish it was a little bit finer. It's a little bit too big, but it's okay. And I wish it would come, an extra one, maybe two more of those little notches along the blade, because when I really want to get forward, I wouldn't mind having some jimping up there too. It's almost a 90-degree spine. On this side, it didn't throw sparks very well. On this side, it threw sparks quite well off of a ferrocerium rod. I think somebody just rounded this edge here a little bit when they were doing the work at the factory. The handle, we've got something of a forward choil here. We've got a solid pin there and two hollow pins here. There's a red liner in there. I'm not sure what that material is. It's probably G10 or something like that. And this is walnut. And it's not, well, it's very typical of CONDOR's wood. It's not perfect. You can see a little bit of a line right there behind that back pin. And let's see if I can get it to focus up here. I got to stay further away from the lens. And that's just during manufacturing, something rubbed across there, and so there's a little bit of a line. It feels like and looks like they did not put any finish on there. So your hands, the sweat and oils from your skin will slowly seal this wood. I would like to, even if this was used as a hunting knife, some people are really scared of chemicals, so I would use butcher block finish on this to seal it off. I've got a nice butcher block finish. I used to do a lot of woodworking, and I made a lot of rolling pins on my lathe, which I don't have anymore, but I always finish those with this nice butcher block finish that I have that seals it, and it's just really nice. That would keep it, from deteriorating, if it got into the rain quite often or something. The handle shape, though, this is a very smart handle shape. My hands are right between large and extra large. And when I grip it here with my finger in that forward choil, there's still some room back here. And I brought it to a guy who's got really big hands. His pinky goes back here. So he holds it sort of like this, except for there's no spaces because his fingers are fatter. And he said that was a very comfortable grip with his huge hands. So this knife is quite good. I brought it to a guy who's got smaller hands than mine. Men's medium gloves is what he buys, and he found it quite comfortable as well. So really good design on the shape of this handle. Rounded edges everywhere, a little bit of jimping at the back here. I wish they would have done some of that same thing up here where the thumb rest area is. I just like that jimping. It's really effective. The lanyard hole comes out the back. I like that it's just the steel poking out, so you can use that steel, if you need to crush something. Plus, the lanyard doesn't bunch up in the back. I like that exposed hole the way it is. And they provided it with this tiny little bit of a lanyard right here. So that's the general shape. By the way, there's no sharpener's choil. I like to have sharpener's choils, but there isn't one here. The badging on the knife says Condor El Salvador on that side. It's not super huge or anything, and it's not dark black, so I don't mind that at all, and that's all the writing you're going to find on this knife. Now let's talk about how it performed in my cut tests. It didn't cut all that well. It didn't even slice all that well. Maybe I should make a video about the difference between cutting and slicing, but it certainly is a good blade shape for puncturing things. It's a very strong tip, and with the belly of the knife the way it is here and the spine, even without a swedge, it did very well in my puncturing tests. The problem with this is the sharpening on it. It's very thick behind the grind, and the sharpening is quite wonky, which is very common for CONDOR's knives. The grind angle changes an awful lot along the length, and they sort of gave it a convex kind of grind by hand. Like they maybe went across it and then changed the angle, went across it again, changed the angle back, went across it again, and sort of gave it a convex edge. I don't mind convex edges, but this one's done very poorly. I'm going to end the video here, and I'm going to change the grind on this, and then I'll tell you if I liked it better or not. I've sharpened it. I decided to do a convex grind. I've got a convex kit on my Hapstone sharpeners, and I've got it from TS Prof as well. And since it's a hunting knife, it also would be great as a survivalist kind of knife. I think the hollow grind is really, really good. It's pretty good at making feather sticks now. It was just okay at it before, but that sharpening has really, really helped. I don't have any animals to skin. I can only assume that it can do a very good job at that as well. It slices better, it cuts better, and I didn't notice any appreciable difference in its piercing. I was just piercing through some fairly thick plastic, thicker than a milk jug, but a similar kind of plastic. And yeah, it does okay at all those things. Before we get any further, let's talk about the specs. I did get an email back from CONDOR. The representative there said this was 100% full leather. Now, they are in El Salvador, and so they didn't explicitly say that it's full grain leather, but I am convinced from them that this is real 100% full grain leather, meaning it was cut from a cow and it was tanned, and then they cut out the shape and they made it, that it's not shredded and then bonded leather. And that's really nice. I'm glad to hear that. So the sheath is quite good. Nothing bad to say here, really. I would like a dangle, but yeah, it's good. And there's no drain hole. There's nothing like that down here. So those of you who are getting one of these, you need to know that. The knife, let's do the specs on it. It weighs 154 grams. That's 5.45 ounces. The sheath is 63 grams, which is 2¼ ounces. Together, it's 218 grams, only 7.7 ounces. So just under half a pound for the whole kit. That's not bad at all. The cutting edge length is 104.7 millimeters, 4.12 inches. Blade length, tip to the wood, 107.4 millimeters, which is 4.23 inches. That's why this is called a 4¼ inch knife. The thickness of the blade, 3.26 millimeters, 0.1285. 0.125 is 1/8 of an inch, so this is just a little over 1/8 of an inch. That's quite nice. The blade depth, it's biggest right here at the heel of the blade, 53.9 millimeters, 1.41 inches. How thick is it behind the grind? From the factory, it was 1.12 millimeters, which is 44/1000ths of an inch. It's one of the reasons why, with their rough sharpening job, it just didn't cut as good as I wanted it to cut. And now it cuts quite well. I would prefer still if it was thinner behind the grind, but I can't change that. The grind angles. On this side, it started off at 15.6, went to 20.3 in this region. It ended up at 20.7. Not sure what I'm going to call the average on that. On this side, it was a fair bit worse. It started at 23.5, quickly went to 28.7, and then an inch down, it was at 22.5, and it stayed around 22.5 for most of it. And then about an inch from the tip, it was 22.5, and at the tip, 18.3. So quite wonky sharpening. CONDOR really has to get their sharpening better. The perennial complaint from so many reviewers is their sharpening's not good. You've got a really decent product here, and the design is great, CONDOR. If anyone there is listening, you do need to teach your sharpeners to sharpen better. The handle length, and I'm calling it right to the end of the steel ring here. Oh, it's not really a ring, but right to the end. 112.3 millimeters, 4.42 inches. The thickness of the handle, 15.5 millimeters, 0.61 of an inch. Very nice for this size of handle. The depth of the handle, its biggest right there, 22.9 millimeters, 1.18 of an inch. And the grip area, and I'm measuring it from my thumb close to the end here, it's up to 11.5 centimeters or 4.5 inches. But you can very comfortably just use this part as well. And that part is just, 3 3/4 at the most inches. The total length of this knife is 219 millimeters, or very close to that, which is a very nice size. Every store that I saw, this is new for 2021, they're selling it for $68.83 US. At White Mountain Knives, you save 10% with coupon code CCE, and that makes it $61.95 American. Not bad at all. My target for the year, as I've said at the beginning of the year, is to review knives that cost around $60. So this is under 62, so that's why I got it. That's roughly 77 Canadian dollars if you buy this from White Mountain Knives. And importing fixed blades into Canada, no problem at all, unless it's got a T-shaped handle. So if the handle goes across this way and the blade comes out, they're going to call that a push dagger, and that's illegal in the country. So, yeah. What do I think of this knife? I like most of the stuff about it. It's a very nice grip. The grip design's done very well. I just might ask for a little bit of jimping up here. This jimping to be a little bit smaller maybe, but the placement's quite good, maybe a little bit longer. I'd like to have a sharpness choil, but it's not that bad. The blade design is very effective. This is great not only as a hunter knife, this is a good secondary survival knife. I'd want my primary knife to be a bit bigger than this, but hey, if this is what I was stuck with, there's an awful lot you can get done with this knife. It's nicely rounded. It feels good in the hand. It's a little bit rustic the way it's made, but that's CONDOR's cup of tea. I like the nice bright liners in there. And it's a little bit rough right here on the grinding that they did right there, but that's not a big deal at all. It's just par for the course for CONDOR. I quite like it. If I do take this lanyard off, I will chamfer the inside, the hole right here on both sides, just a little bit, just to make it a little bit smoother. I'm not thinking it's going to chafe on the lanyards, but who knows, it might. But overall, this is a really nice knife. I quite like it. I'm probably going to be keeping this for myself. Thanks for watching my video. Thanks for signing up to be a supporter of the channel. That really does help an awful lot. And if you can't afford to support the channel, I thank you for allowing the advertisements to play in the video, because that's my primary source of income, is from the advertisements. So I appreciate that when you let that happen. Thanks for sharing these videos with your friends. Thanks for liking and commenting, and your subscription really is meaningful. Remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.